And yes, so I guess we can get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Brinda. I'm a part of AFH. I have been for over a year and a half. And today, along with Maria, who is my co host, we will be hosting this session with Prachi ma'am and Rica ma'am on journalism in the digital age. Um, we're live on LinkedIn and YouTube, as Sneha has mentioned in the chat box. And so before we move on, we've seen a couple of more people join in. So do mention where you're joining from, what moved you to join this session today. So we can all know where everyone is from. And yes, so very quick introduction to myself, which I've already given. I've been a part of AFH with Impact and Learning, and it's very, very exciting. This is our last ever webinar in Focus, which is the film and media vertical at AFH. This is the sixth one, and if you weren't able to attend the earlier ones, do look out on our YouTube channel. There are recordings of the previous ones there. Maria, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I have been associated with AFH for just a few months, but surely really impactful over here. Really, really excited. This is last but not the least. We, look forward to listening to many more great speakers. And today we have our amazing speakers over here. So let's get started. Are you all excited? Can I get a thumbs up? It's a very quiet all together. Yes. All right, let's start with our speakers today. Rica Roy is the deputy editor for NDTV. Rica Roy is a broadcaster, journalist, and a documentary maker for 21 years. Rica has also hosted two popular podcast series on Red FM called Guts, Gumption, Glory, and a business called Cricket. She's a media trainer with Australian Broadcasting, ABC's Women in News and Sports Initiative. Rica is passionate about mentoring young sports professionals, women sports journalists. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our second guest of the day is Prachi Jatania, ma'am. Prachi Jatania is an award-winning journalist with over 15 years of experience working at prominent newsrooms from Network 18, India Express to India Today. She currently leads the India Communications for global nonprofit Vital Strategies. She's a multilingual, seasoned leader with experience in leading teams to activate communications and storytelling strategies for the corporate and social sectors as well. Prachi is passionate about women empowerment both in the workplace and in her personal life. Welcome, ma'am. We're very excited to have you here today.
Thanks so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you.
So before we move forward with this very exciting session, I'd like to invite our founder and CEO, Madhura Dasgupta Sinha ma'am, to introduce AFH to all of us.
Thank you so much, Brinda. It's actually, I think AFH does not need too much introduction to this group because I can see some familiar faces over here. Thank you for the spotlight. But I do want to say a couple of things about Rica and about Prachi and how we all got them together and how this film and media vertical actually started. So as all of you know, that Aspire for Her was set up to encourage, motivate women to enter and stay in the workforce. We dream of getting 1 million women additionally in the workforce by 2025. And in that entire journey for the last 20 months or so, we launched on Women's Day last year. We've actually found that many women are interested in careers which are in film and media, but they really don't know where to start. And film and media is just one example. There are many career tracks like this, where there is a lot of confusion and there's a lot of demystification required about what those careers actually mean. In fact, Rica has been almost like a guardian angel, I should say, to Aspire for Her. And, and thank you for getting Prachi in here, Rica. So I will also give you credit for that because anything that we have worked on, whether it is our communities, whether it is just talking to the girls in colleges to talk about careers which are in journalism, careers in the creative side. We have always got Rica's unstinted support. Even when the Not Alone community got launched, Rica was the first person to put her hand up and say, hey, I'm going to be an anchor in this community. And she actually worked with two girls in the Not Alone community, really changing and transforming their lives. So we are so proud that we have mentors like Rica among us. And Prachi, we will get to know each other a lot, I'm sure, over the next few months, years, etc., because this is a journey for life. So thank you very much for being part of Aspire for Her, Prachi. We know that together there are so many magical things that we can achieve. The film and media vertical, just as an example, everybody felt that this entire vertical had only two roles: acting and directing. So we said, okay, we think that's a truth that needs to be told. And this is the sixth in a series of 6 events, and we've obviously kept journalism. And journalism itself is such a rich tapestry of so many different things that you can do. So I'm sure you guys are going to talk about that. But this is the sixth in a line of various career tracks that we have put together, and this is completely done out of the affection and out of the out of the complete commitment and motivation of our mentors. Our mentors decided, no, we can't let it happen this way, that people think there are only two kinds of careers in film and media. There's lots more to it. So let's talk about all of that. So for those of you who have followed us throughout, thank you so much. And this is still an area, this is still a career track which is very less understood. It's a path which is less trodden. So therefore, we need people like Rica and Prachi to come and demystify and talk about those. So this is what we constantly attempt to do at Aspire for Her. Thank you so much for helping us to both of them are mentors with us. So in case you need to find out more information, or about just get guidance about various career tracks, both Rica and Prachi will be available for you. And this is one of the unique elements of what we try to offer to all our members, so that they don't lose their way in the journey that we call career. So all the very best, and there are many exciting things happening on the platform. This is just one of them, and I'm sure you will all find it extremely valuable. So thank you very much, and back to you, Maria Brinda.
Sorry, I want to add here one thing, Madhura. It's not just two, but we knew only 3 careers, which is acting, directing, and producing. Okay, 3.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, there's so much more to it. So yes, thank you.
It's always great to listen about AFH and what we are doing, together. But Sureka, I just wanted to start by saying, Sureka, I feel you are in the right place today, because your interest is digital journalism, and we will be talking about digital journalism mainly. So let's get started. I'm very, very excited for this conversation to go forward. And my first question is to Prachi ma'am. Journalism is an identity. Do you feel that being the medium of delivery of journalistic news associates a sort of identity? And what is a perception of that?
Right. Great. So wonderful to see so many of you here and to hear the interest about digital journalism and the various, facets of journalistic career. The idea of journalism is that it's the fourth estate of democracy. It represents a sense of public service, and the delivery of information needs to be accurate. So you feel a sense of responsibility as a journalist when you're in the newsroom, when you're part of the career. It's almost like a mission. It's not just a job. And that's how, many of us have begun our careers and perceived our roles as journalists. So we don't look at it only as a 9-to-5 job. It's more than that. You live the passion and purpose of relaying accurate information, of telling the stories of people you meet and interact with, of serving a much higher purpose, and bringing, completely uncovered and underreported social issues to the fore through media as a vehicle, through the newsroom, through various, channels, whether it's broadcast, print, or even digital. So the idea of journalism as identity really permeates across layers of people, reporters, anchors, and you really can't separate the person from their career or their purpose as a journalist. Things, of course, have changed. Many journalists have evolved, grown, and we try to strike a balance between when we get fully involved in a story, or when we need to have a boundary or separation in the role of being a reporter and relaying the information, or actually getting completely immersed in that report or story. So there is a fine line, of course, and it's a balance that we have to jostle with every day with every story. But it's a completely different experience. You come across a new story, a new report, a new bit of information every day, and you grow as an individual, unlike any other profession or career, I would say. Rika, I'm sure you have thoughts to add here.
Well, Prachi, before I begin on talking about journalism, I have to just add two lines following up on that word passion. Madhura, you started AFH with a lot of passion, and AFH became a passion project for all of us here on this platform. And the way you and Ruchita have guided and held us together, that itself is commendable. 20 months down the line, we are sitting together and still talking about our passion to bring that 1 million women to workforce, and we will keep on working together. And along the line, I have to tell you how wonderful a mentor you have been to me personally, and I couldn't be more grateful than that. And just talking about journalism, I think I only have to describe it to you this way, that it is my favorite play suit that I put on when I was 17. And I don't know if I look any better in any other cloth, in any other piece of clothing, in any other color. It is that favorite play suit that I'm still wearing today. And the reason I say that it is a play suit, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of energy, a lot of activity, and at the same time it's about finding myself. I have grown in that play suit, but I still continue to wear it. That has become my identity. That has really defined who am I going forward as a person, and as a professional as well. It's an odd thing with a journalist. They rarely get to distinguish their personal self and their professional self, because the boundaries are so thin. I can be in the middle of a wedding and typing away a breaking news because a friend or a source just called me saying, hey, look, this has happened. And I think the follow-up is something that and hence you can inform the newsroom. It has happened to me so many times that I have been in the middle of a wedding, in the middle of a function, in the middle of something that's totally disconnected from my work, but my mind has just gone back there. It's just gone back and forth. It's a bit weird about the journalists, and I can only tell you, anyone who's as mad or as passionate about being a journalist and just thrives in this whole idea of being engrossed in a 24/7 world should jump into journalism. Journalism as a career will not pay you like an IIM graduate. It will not pay you like an MBA. All you live for is that mug, is that voiceover, is that byline, which and it's really about your passion to tell a story, that passion of being a storyteller. And hence, when you become a journalist, you will identify yourself in being that, in that play suit, year after year, growing in that play suit and finding the love for it. So that's all I can say. And I think journalism is a lifestyle. It is not, for me, it's not a career. It's just who you are, how you are. Your even moral compass is built by journalists. I wouldn't say that there are times that you will not not be given ideas that are to cross the line, and there are these things dangling in front of you that will probably draw you to do things that are not completely ethical, but then that is your morality will come in there. You will tell yourself, no, this is who I am, and that is who I cannot be. So your shadow will talk to yourself a lot of times. And hence I say that it is not just a career. It is an entire, journalism is an entire life. So as you go along, you realize the different bits of journalism. It's not a corporate life, though, all of us still do corporate jobs. I work for NDTV, which is a multinational company, but it is anything but a corporate job. It's truly a 24/7 profession. It is not that you do nine hours of your shift and you completely forget what's happening. When you are a reporter on a holiday, you are a reporter on a break, you are a reporter all the time. So I think it is a profession that everyone should just come out of passion, the passion to tell stories.
That was really nice. And Rica ma'am, following up on how you described it as being a play suit, something that you came across and put on at the age of 17. And you've described how it's sort of intertwined with your life as well. And you've kind of stressed on how it is more than a career, more than a professional thing, it is a lifestyle. Right. I would like to know how this journey has been like for you, and maybe if you could talk to us about how this journey started for you.
My journey really started very early. As I said, I put on the play suit at 17, and I was journalism happened to me. I did not go looking for a job, but having said that, I would say that I am one of those very few, lucky ones who was recruited into journalism. Journalism welcomed me, and I didn't go looking for a job. Very early in life, I picked up an interest in sports journalism, though I must say that in the beginning, I did not get the chance, get a break in sports journalism. The first time that I got a break was to be a city reporter. I was still in my college. I was doing my college, and I did my job alongside my studies for about 2.5 years, till the time I was able to find a full-time job, because my boss had at that time told me that if I wasn't to produce a graduation certificate at the end of it all, he will chuck me out. So on one hand, I had to pursue my degree, and on the other hand, I had to then, carry on with what came to me at that time. Of course, I was very invested in the work that I was doing at that time, because I knew that this learning would take me somewhere, but where it would take me, I didn't know. Where I would land up ultimately, I didn't know. The only thing I knew was that if I'm learning something today, I should learn that well. And that was true to my education. That was true to, the journalism that I learned along the course. And I was working as a trainee. And many years later, when I eventually got a scholarship to go to the UK and do my master's program, um, I I learned a lot more about journalism. But when I entered journalism, I was a rookie. I did not know anything about journalism. I did not have a platform like AFH where I could seek out mentors and I could speak to mentors and know how they work. But what I did at that time was just to see everyone around me how they worked. And then I just come back to the point that in having AFH, you guys are just so blessed. Ahead of you, there are so many people who have done those jobs exactly the way you would want to know. They will explain you that how, they would demystify things for you. But when I started out, I did not have a role model. I didn't have a woman sports journalist to tell me that this is how things need to be done, because sports traditionally have been a very male dominated area. And even to at that time when I started out to get the a ticket to the press box to go out and sit inside a man's fear was rare. A couple of times I was ticked off when I went in wearing a skirt, saying that I was told that uh, that's not the kind of dress I should go in wearing inside a press box. And I was turned away. But then, as years passed, as I got more assertive, and I knew that I was able to explain people around me, journalists around me, that I was serious and I meant business, was was the time when I found my way inside the press box. I found more and more acceptance, but I would say acceptance alone took 15 years to come. Initially, no one took me seriously. Very few thought that I will even remain in this profession beyond initial 2 3 years, because they thought sports journalism was only for men, and women will come in, they'll just have fun, they'll look around and disappear after 2 3 years. But I didn't do, and there are many after me who didn't do so. So here we are, a bunch of us today. We are kind of still, marching on in the field of sports journalism. Though I would still say that we are taking baby steps, because there's a lot more that needs to be done, a lot more to be achieved. A lot more women need to come to the workforce. Right now, as I speak to you, there are 58 women sports journalists in India across print, TV, and digital. The number surely needs to grow, and there are courses across different institutions in India. There are lovely internships available in places like NDTV that offer you the chance to understand how really sports journalism goes on, and thereby you can have a career and in sports. And once you know how things operate, is when you will be able to come in and experience the life inside the newsroom even more. And I hope a lot of you get inspired by this to try out a life in sports.
Definitely, definitely, ma'am. The first class of a journalism student is definitely, what is news. And there was a funny meme that came over, north, south, east, west, and south. That's what news means. And that was the first thing that came. And I went back Googling, and, you just don't understand what does it mean when you just say like news. It can be any sort of news, and definitely a career in sports journalism, that's not many of us are very much know about. We know that there are commenters and people who talk about it, but how serious can we get about it if we love sports, and how can we get into it? But something that I'm really intrigued to know about is what happens in a newsroom. Like, for example, the last time we saw it in Lakshya, when Preeti Zinta was on the call of the newsroom and everything that happened. So my question is to Prachi ma'am. You told that journalism is a craft. So what happens in that room, and like, how was your experience when you stepped into that place, or you shared that space? So could you share your experience with us?
Most definitely. I think my journey has been slightly different from Rika's, where I was very intentional towards pursuing this career and, wanting to be a journalist. I did not take very planned steps, but, the likes of Dr. Roy, Barkha, I grew up watching, television news. It had just come into satellite TV, and that was really a huge sense of purpose and huge attraction to be able to really be a part of current affairs. And I started my journey at 18. I did freelance writing for newspapers, and I made sure that I took intentional steps towards pursuing journalism and being a reporter on field to begin with. Of course, as rookie reporters, you are just literally pushed into an entire world of various news beats. I was able to shadow crime journalists. I was able to shadow journalists who cover the court. I was able to shadow journalists who follow current affairs and political news. So it was, so to say, on the job learning, lots of trial and error, just understanding, getting a sense of, what journalism is, and then being a part of the newsroom, really a 24/7 news cycle that changes, the news wheel changes every few hours. There's breaking news. So you just walk into, this entire gamut of, monitors and screens, and, people in a rush. There's a lot of adrenaline rush. There's a sense of, getting, there's a sense of speed, responsibility, accuracy, credibility, and, making sure you get the big picture across to the viewers, to the audience. So it's a mix of, diverse aspects, and it's a team job. When many of us started out a decade ago, journalism has always been facets of everyone pitching in, from the person on field, that's the reporter, to the camera person or video journalist, getting back into the newsroom, into the edit bay, and, working with the with video editor, scripting that story, voicing it, and then making sure that it goes out on air and the anchor introduces it. When it's live news, you're out on the field, you have to have the latest information, whether it's a medical bulletin, when a prominent personality, a politician, is in hospital, or whether it's, live cricket updates, or a particular sports event. You really need to be up to date with the information. You need to have a credible source. So newsroom is a buzzing room or area of activity, multiple people, various team members and colleagues really pitching in together to weave that story that you see eventually on air, put together to make sense of what has happened, over the last couple of hours or last couple of minutes when a news breaks. Of course, there are various streams or teams, from feature journalists to documentary to long form, and then there's the current affairs team. So there are various desks assigned, and journalists come with various skills of storytelling, a certain beat reporting capability, and that's where you're able to then pull together, get the latest information, script it. You really cannot do without each other's support. You have to have your video journalist around to capture the right story. Things, of course, are changing. We are now in the world of digital news, mobile journalism. So it's a 360-degree world of journalism. You need to understand the nuance and various facets of journalism. I always wanted to be, and I was a political journalist for many years, because I was drawn to current affairs of, to how policies are really formed and what goes behind the scenes of government decisions. But not too many female journalists, again, similar experience to Rica's, very, very, very few female journalists working in the area of political journalism and political reporting, just a handful. And, we would spend many hours waiting for an interview or a soundbite from a minister, and you were expected to dress in a certain way. So I always tried to stay below the radar. It was more, either people around me, I felt very conscious about how I dressed. As a young journalist, I always wanted to be dressed and taken seriously, and dress appropriately, to be taken seriously on camera, but also while interviewing these, interviewing ministers or public figures. So, it wasn't easy from a gender lens, if we look at it, to be a woman journalist on field reporting, or, being the first one, to get a exclusive sit down interview with the Minister of Environment, or, any other minister, so to speak. So very, very important nuance here, many layers in the profession, but really all of it made sense when you really got into the role of telling the story. Being the sutradhar, being able to relay that information to the wider audience, why a particular decision was made in Parliament, what really happened behind the scenes when there were protests on the streets, or whether it was a terrible tragedy like a bomb blast or the November 26 terror attacks in Mumbai. very important under pressure, situations many times. So you need to have a certain a certain skill of being tenacious, but also wanting to really be around to tell the story, really having that perseverance and being persistent, not really giving up because somebody said no to you the first time. It's important to tell the right story, the accurate information, and tell it, if not from the horse's mouth, but to be able to really get that information out to the general public. So in the interest of public service, journalism really is that higher order, form of storytelling, and really a mix of experience and mix of experiences being on field and in the newsroom. One needs to understand that now you need to be equipped with a 360-degree skill set, and that's something, I would really love Rica telling us more about, because she's been pursuing mobile journalism very actively and pulling together stories from camera work to scripting to voiceover, to really going live in any situation, whether it's updates from India's victory at a cricket match, or an IPL score, or a really huge football event.
Thank you very much, Prachi. Well, you spoke about perseverance. Something just came to my mind, and it's really funny. I'll have to relay this in this room. In 2011, 2010 Commonwealth Games was happening, just before Commonwealth Games was to happen in India. There was a big scam around Commonwealth Games. We all know about it. And we used to be reporting from outside in Delhi, outside the houses of VIPs and VVIPs. And we used to be standing outside their house for many, many hours. There used to be the flower pots and reporters. So it came to be called the flower pot shifts, because on the flower pot shifts will be the reporters from 6 a.m. in the morning till about 12 o'clock midnight, reporters in two shifts. So it was typically called, the shift came to be known as the flower pot shift, because you just had to remain standing outside the houses of the VIPs and the VVIPs involved in the scam to catch them for a soundbite. And I have to tell you guys, it was just so difficult in those days. We had just started out with our cameras, and being a mobile journalist, our camera was our phone, and we had a mic attached to the camera. We were on tripods, and I had just started using a selfie stick. Being one person and to run after a VVIP was just so difficult. Would get trampled all over a lot of times. The camera people had still not given up their big cameras. It was a period of transition. Some of us with small cameras, small mobiles, and there were other people with big digi cameras, the massive cameras that you see still now in some of the newsrooms. But yes, it has been a big transition since those times, and now a lot of the people realize the value of shooting, capturing the image, and then post producing it, putting the post produced story on air through a mobile. That's value for money as well. You don't have to have three people or four people on ground, while that has resulted in a lot of people in the industry losing jobs. um, I wouldn't say that our salaries have become four times because of that, but we practically do the job of three other people who used to be with us, working with us in the field back then. The other thing I'll have to tell you, talking about newsroom and getting into newsroom, when I was a kid, because of my mom's work, I had once had the good fortune of going into the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, or the BARC. And that was, so I have never been inside a spaceship. I have never been inside a space station, but that was something very unique. The energies are very different. The first day when I walked into NDTV and my mom asked me, how was it? I said, I had that feeling of walking into BARC with machines all around me, everything automated. NDTV gave me that sense of deja vu, walking back inside Bhabha Atomic Research Center with just so many machines around me. Of course, things have changed a lot in these 17 years that I have been with this organization. Systems have become smaller, lot less people, hence, what should I say? The newsroom is less busier now because the machines do a lot of work for us, much less, human involved. It is a paperless office. When I, you know, some time back, someone asked me, what do you what do you watch what do you watch on TV when you get back home? And I told that person, I don't watch TV when I get back home. I really don't watch TV. So that person, shot back at me and said, what a hypocrite are you? You work for a TV station and you don't watch TV. I said, I pulled out a picture that I had on me of a newsroom that I walk into. The moment I walk into the newsroom, there are 36 screens hanging around me, and 36 screens relaying different information, different live feed from different stations across the globe, apart from one being a Reuters feed, one being an APTN feed, one being an SNTV feed, one being a Bloomberg. So there are different news feeds. And if I watch that for 12 hours, I don't need to watch any more TV when I come back home. But the response I got was, "How what a hypocrite are you? You don't watch TV." So things have changed a lot. I would say things have changed quite drastically inside the newsroom in the last 7-8 years, when increasingly mobile journalism has become important. If you look at NDTV, the output of the channel that you see is the same output right now you are getting to see me on. It's a Samsung phone. So the anchor who's reading out the news to you or relaying the news to you is using the same camera output. So, when we get in earlier, when we had to get into the newsroom, in the studio, we would have had to take help from a camera person, a light person, to switch on the stations for us to be at a particular spot. Now we just get in, we just switch on the camera, we stand before the camera. That's about it. We are on air. We don't have to do much. Similar things for while we are out on the field. And Isha, at this point, I think we should show our audience the story, and I can explain a little more about how the shoot was done, and I can take them behind the scenes.
Brenda, I think you can take it away.
Yes, I'm just sharing it right now. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
The Indian Premier League has captured the imagination of the Indian public over last one decade. And here in Melbourne is where all the balls for the tournament are made. Around 1,500 balls are manufactured each year for the tournament. It is the shine, the finish, the time-tested formula of using a 5-layered center to maintain the bounce and hardness that has made these hand-stitched balls most sought after by the bowlers. Faced with stiff competition at home, 5 years ago, Kookaburra took the fight to the subcontinent, setting up a factory in Meerut. But the real coup was being picked as the ball to be used in the billion-dollar league.
So we've been involved with the IPL pretty much since the inception. Look, it's a real honour to be involved with the IPL. We know it's the greatest show on earth as far as cricket goes.
It was around 41 years back white balls began to be manufactured in this factory. Kerry Packer came to the owner with a proposal of playing night cricket and finding a ball to use it.
What happened was we Kookaburra tested a bunch of different balls. They put paint on it, different shades of paint, different colours of paint. They tried yellow, they tried orange, they tried white. Now, They went down to a stadium that was then around that World Series cricket was played in, VFL Park in Melbourne. Ian Chappell was part of it, and they basically turned on the lights and had a centre wicket session to see what could be seen, what balls were the best to be visible under those lights. A white ball was the one they came up with. So from that point onwards, the white ball started.
In Melbourne, this is Rica Roy for NDTV.
Okay, I'll just take you through the process of doing this story. This was a story on the cricket balls that are used in the IPL and that are manufactured at this Kookaburra factory just outside Melbourne. And because, the entire consignment of the IPL balls is manufactured there, I was, drawn towards the story, and I just wanted to do the story. And of course, and also this is one of the traditional cricket families. They have hundreds and hundreds of years of history. The factory itself is steeped in history and tradition. So I wanted to visit the factory, have a look at how the traditional cricket balls are manufactured. At the same time, the new age IPL balls. And also when I went there in 2018, they were just starting to play night cricket in pink balls. So the pink test balls were also being manufactured. So the way they are stitched are a little different. The way the lacquers are put are a little different. And it's interesting to the Indian audience to see how, the balls that are used in the IPL are manufactured there. Of course, the man who you saw there being interviewed, he's the chief of corporate communications of Kookaburra. The family loves to stay behind the screens. They don't want themselves to be exposed. So he was the spokesperson, and he spoke to me. He gave me a tour of the factory, and I shot it with a Samsung mobile. Edited it on a Samsung mobile, and it was then the live feed was sent to the studio. And the process of doing it was fun, also because I could get inside the factory and take those close-up shots, and the shots of the leather being cut, the leather being processed, and the balls being made. So all of those visual elements really add color to the story. So when you are making a visual story, making it in the right way and using the shots that are more pleasing to your eye, even if there is a time constraint in terms of news, is something one has to keep in mind. And this is true for a sports story. This is true for a non-sports story, for a digital journalist today, and for a television journalist. It is very important to be knowing how to shoot well, and hence the basics of shooting haven't changed. It's just that many of us trying to do things in a hurry don't deploy those basics well, and hence a lot of the shoot that we put out on air don't really look palatable. But the idea and the effort for all of us should be to get as close to the ideal journalism or ideal storytelling as possible. And I thought this was one of those stories that was shot in very less time, and very less space. Also, the interview was to be done in a hurry because this guy was just doing the interview and leaving. So given the constraints overall, we had this came out as a near perfect story, and hence I wanted to show you guys how the kind of output you could produce with a mobile phone. A lot of our work increasingly is going to move on mobile. The days of big camera are almost gone. Only about 20% of the work that we do now, perhaps filmmaking and documentary making, will only be now done on those big cameras. And even in terms of filmmaking, I know a lot of them have started shooting on iPhones. So I don't know for how long the big cameras will be there in the market. As far as journalism is concerned, I think mojo or mobile journalism is the way to go. And it is not just for us, the TV journalists, but also for the digital journalists, because what is expected today is, along with the text you write, you produce a short video. It could be a 20-second video, it could be a 30-second video, but the best possible way that you can produce a video. Another thing, before I hand over to Prachi, I'll have to tell you is, because we are using all kind of media today and downloading a lot of stuff, we need to be very, very aware of the copyright violations, because a lot of footage, a lot of stills that are available online, just because you're telling a story on, say, Kareena Kapoor, who has COVID today, just don't go about picking up her stills from Instagram. All you know that they may be copyrighted. All you know that, using them in your video can get you a strike. So see what are non-copyrighted images. They are also with every image or every video, you will find a copyright clause. Read that properly before using in your video, in your in other ways that you're using on your digital format.
Thank you for that. Both Prachi ma'am and Rica ma'am, I meant to ask about the newsrooms, and both of you provided like a perspective even like beyond the newsroom. How you spoke about like now everything, mobile journalism, because mobiles are like much more accessible than the studio, the camera equipment, it's become of a sort of something that even people who are really passionate about it but don't have the access to such large studios can sort of as a passion project start developing those skills, and those sort of start arranging a portfolio or something of that sort. So that was really helpful, both of your experiences combined with how just the landscape is changing so much. I would like to now focus on something both of you have mentioned in our talk now, and kind of focus on the gender lens of this industry and your, I guess, career trajectory, because obviously looking at anything without a gender lens is just like ignorant. Have you noticed or experienced any discrepancy or difference in maybe not only treatment, but also the way of observing just stories or your career experience? And have you noticed anything different that might be because of you being a woman in this field? And is there anything that you believe that aspiring journalists, aspiring people aspiring to go in the digital field should know of, be aware of, something that you wish you knew before going to this field? So if Prachi ma'am and Rica ma'am, both of you could talk about just how it might be a little different, given the fact that there is a very big sort of gender inequity, not only in just the world, and especially in a field like this.
A great question. I would say from my colleagues or peers, I never experienced any sort of inequity or discriminatory, body language or behavior or treatment. But definitely, as journalists, when I was working late in the nights or doing night shifts or going on outstation, trips to cover a particular story, breaking news. My parents sometimes would be very concerned, or people, my colleagues would be worried, how the experience would be if it was a slightly precarious situation that I was going into, whether it was a communal riot follow-up situation, or there was some there was a religious backlash related coverage. There was some sense of insecurity among people around me. I did, I have an incident I wanted to talk about when I was reporting on state elections in a particular in a Western state about a decade ago. I was surrounded by a very angry mob because because of rumors that as a journalist or as an organization, we had a certain preconceived leaning in reportage, and we weren't conveying the facts. So editorially, there was some misunderstanding or misinterpretation of our work, and I was surrounded by a very angry mob even when I was reporting live I was on the campaign trail and outside a particular polling booth. I was getting talking to different people from all walks of life, getting first-hand reactions about what they expect as citizens from their particular legislative leader. A crowd started gathering around me and heckling me. It was a very difficult situation for my camera person and myself. We didn't have any other colleagues around. There were other journalists a couple of meters away also, of course, reporting, but most of them were men. I was among maybe just two female journalists at that point, covering that particular state assembly election. The crowd had both men, women, young, teenagers as well, heckling and cursing at me, using swear words, almost, getting physically, almost like physically abusive towards me and, mistreating me. So it was a very precarious situation, difficult. Tempers were flying high. I was very uncomfortable, literally on live television, and I had to stop. I had to get some help. I had to talk to my senior editors, and they saw the situation and they were able to send some help, but I had to take the help of a man, other male journalists around, to push the crowd away, to diffuse the situation. But it was a very difficult, challenging, intense assignment. It got a bit unruly. So there have been situations where, as a woman, I felt like I was at a bit of a disadvantage, and my gender really was seen as a sign of weakness by either people around, witnessing, or bystanders. And I felt like I would have wanted to maybe talk back at them, but because as professionals, as people doing their jobs, we understand that we really need to stay calm under pressure and not add to the situation at hand. So of course, sometimes gender has come into the spotlight while reporting, but I wouldn't faced any inequity from my peers or colleagues. Of course, I was always given, I was always given fair treatment. I can't talk about gender pay parity because things have changed. That's a completely separate conversation. Over the years, I have realized and I have been advocating for transparency in the pay bands of journalists as well, both male and female. There is some research that says that male anchors are paid higher than female anchors. So globally, I would not say in India, but I think we really need to unpack journalism and the media industry's practices on gender pay parity for sure. And of course, use be able to feel safe, secure as a female journalist or as any journalist really doing their jobs, getting the news and the information out to the general public, because it's the larger good, it's the larger purpose that matters. At the end of the day, we are all really there to bring out the story and not to become the story. So yeah, Rica, what are your thoughts?
So what I can tell you is that within the organization, I haven't experienced any discrimination. In fact, I will have to tell you here that I am immensely grateful to all my bosses and even Dr. Pranay Roy for supporting my career as a sports journalist. Having said that, when I look at other organizations, people who are and here I'm not talking about the sports anchors. I'm talking about sports journalists, people who started out at around the time I started out. They have taken a very long time to progress. They haven't got as far as I have got simply because they haven't got the push from their editors. It's been their male counterparts who've been promoted ahead of them, and that's not a comment on them, because they are not less efficient or they are not less capable than their men counterpart, but it's just that their men counterparts have been promoted. Even some youngsters have been promoted ahead of them, leaving them very, very frustrated. Because again, coming back to that theory of what people believe, that women can't be good sports journalists, which is absolutely rubbish. Women can be just anything that they put their head around. So I would say that I am immensely grateful for the support system that I have got within NDTV, but a lot really needs to be done towards the career of women sports journalists. In a lot of other fields, I would say women have been allowed to prosper in journalism. Like I see, there are more women political journalists, there are more women journalists who cover foreign affairs, there are more women journalists who cover health, which is one of the best beats to cover right now. There are more women journalists covering Supreme Court of India. So, and that's really a great thing. And all of this can happen when you have the support of the newsroom, you have the support of the editors. Having said that, I would also say that it really comes down to individuals' energies. Personally, I am not very fond of people who would go out and complain day in and day out, because if I start complaining, it means that, instead of complaining, maybe I should have a better way of putting things out to my editor. But there are a lot of women I have seen, they start complaining after a while that I haven't got this, I haven't got that. And I would say, instead of complaining, just go out and show your best self and see what happens. And all that we can do is show our best self, be the best man in the business. When we are competing with a man, we have to be the best man in the business. Even after 21 years today, when I get into the newsroom every day, I try to be the best man in the business. It doesn't matter the story that I've broken yesterday, because today I go out to, address a news story or report on a news story in a new way. I think while we are looking everything a lot is being looked through a gender lens, and it is important to look at things through a gender lens. What also matters is attitude of an individual. And what, to a lot of youngsters, I say that um, you may be employed in an organization, you may be having a boss, but when you're given to do a job, do it like an entrepreneur, do it like the buck stops with you. Because if you do it right, then then there is a chain reaction that has to be right. But if you falter, there is a fault in the chain, and the system will break down. So every one of us, I think, even if we are given that 1% job to do, we should do it like an entrepreneur. We should do it with the right attitude, and we should always, all of us should think that the buck stops with us. And that's what I think when I'm given a job. And I think that whether I'm a man or a woman or belonging to any other sex, I have to do my job the best possible way, and that's the only thing that can take us forward.
Wow, listening to both of you, the amount of passion that comes out for journalism is truly, truly inspiring, ma'am. Opening this session for audience now, we already have question over here. As a journalist, how does one verify their source of information, keeping in mind the advent of fake news on social media platform? This is the real threat and the real, problem that we are facing in the digital world as of now. How do we actually find a credible source and understand that this is not a fake news and this is an actual news to, believe in it? So over to you, ma'am.
Prachi, do you want to go with that first?
Yeah. Actually, this is a really timely and topical question, and I want to actually take the liberty to quote Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa. She's the editor of, Philippines media outlet, the Rappler. In her, award acceptance speech, she said, "Without facts, you cannot have truth. Without truth, you cannot have trust. And without trust, we have no shared reality or no democracy." So the idea hinges a lot on getting the facts right. And, this question is excellent. A lot depends on how well, on how credible your information is and how much you can trust your source. Building a relationship with a source or building that kind of credibility takes time, patience, and of course, being thoroughly trained and having the skills to really check your facts, not get carried away, not let emotion get in the way, but really being objective about the information you're putting out. There are many training modules now for journalists, especially digital journalists, to really upskill and stay relevant in the changing, evolving times of misinformation and fake news. There are many media outlets who are making sure that they have fact-checking desks and teams now in-house that are trained by the likes of Google, factchecker.org, the Pointer Institute. So it's very important that when you start out, even as a newbie in the newsroom, in the world of digital journalism, that you really take up these courses, make sure that you're up to date with, checking the source of an image. You can go back, back change the source of an image using a particular Google Lens, a particular, format on Google and factchecker.org that can allow you to see whether that image was tampered with. And of course, developing source-based information and relationship takes some time. It's important to understand a particular motivation or agenda of your source and double check and verify that particular information from various different sources. So there are layers of information that you need to unpack before you put it out. Yes, it's easier said than done, because in the world of 24/7 news, the bit of speed that, digital news desks seem to expect from journalists nowadays is very, very, it's tough, it's intense, it's quick. So you need to make sure that you are equipped with the right skill set. Make sure that you are up to date with these courses that are available to fact check and verify your news, and make sure that you do not lose sight of the fact that your information can make or break a particular news story. It impacts beyond you. There is a larger impact, as Rica really mentioned. The emphasis on the buck stops at you. So eventually you are acting in good faith. There is a sense of responsibility, and you owe it to the audiences that you are relaying the information to, that you verify and recheck all of the information you put out.
Okay, before I answer your question on fact checking, I'll have to tell you how many layers the newsroom is divided into. So that will also give you an idea on how facts are checked. So for example, and I'll break it down for a TV journalist and a digital journalist, and I'll roughly give you an idea of how it is done in print. If I am a reporter on the field, I get the news from my source. The idea of using Twitter as your wire service or using another reporter as your source should just be thrown out of the window. When I'm a reporter on the field, I get it from my source firsthand. I relay it to the desk. On a given day when I'm not a part of the desk, I relate to the desk. Desk then puts it down. There's a writer on the desk, and while I say this, these are the number of people involved, so these are the number of professions. Me as a reporter, then there is an output editor on the desk who assimilates the information, puts them down in a slug or on an Excel spreadsheet. Then the news editor puts the entire story together, and it's the information coming in, plugs the backgrounder of the information, and then she puts it in a system called iNews, which then is read out by the anchor. So there are 4 people involved in producing the new in putting the news on air. I would say there are 4 people involved. In terms of editorial, I have not gone into the production aspects of news. On a digital team, it would be the reporter on the ground, then the writer who takes down the copy. There would be a fact checker, and then finally a producer. Again, in the chain, there will be 4 people. And these are 4 distinct professions. They're all journalists, but doing different key jobs. Fact checking begins with the reporter, the first person in the story, and it goes all the way down to the news editor or the ones who puts out on either the digital media or on TV. So there are 4 professions, 4 different people involved who are meant to check facts. And, it would very rarely happen that all 4 of them have failed in their task. But I think really the key here is all 4 people have to be in sync. One of them can't suddenly turn around and say, oh, I have seen in this website, they have put out a different story. If that person has seen, can alert the reporter on the field, can alert the news editor, but that information will not be plugged into the reporter's story because it is not your original reporting. Your Twitter gives you all kind of information, but what you take out of Twitter has to be your discretion also. We don't pick up news from Twitter. We use Twitter as a guidance. So, we see different stories are breaking at different regions. Then maybe if it is about UK, I'll go to BBC. If it is South Africa, I'll go to SABC. If there are many other regions we don't get via services from, then I would go to Reuters or APTN, AP to get my news from that region, because I will always trust a reporter on the field. And as Prachi said, it takes years of building these sources. But as a young reporter, what I did was, I would look at the press releases. I would dial those people. In my initial days, I would make friends with people who did that beat. And, in time, you will start getting the news. It is not that difficult also. People will start recognizing you as someone
Is there a connection issue?
Yes, I think Rica Mom is facing a connection issue.
I just want to add also that, what Rica was emphasizing on, it's important not to just copy your fellow journalists or peers on the field. If you're on the field and you see them tweeting about it, because live tweeting, social media, journalism has become very common now. Of course, you need to put out social media updates. If there is an important information that you need to share and relay, do that by all means, but do not follow blindly what your peer is doing, and simply go with what they are doing. You need to be able to, again, trust your own source of information, your own team members back in the newsroom who will be supporting you, along with, corroborating the information that you've put out, whether it's, let me give you the example. When Amitabh Bachchan was, in hospital for many, many months, many of us journalists were literally on stakeouts in shifts, outside the hospital. We used to get medical bulletin from the team of doctors who were treating Mr. Bachchan back then, a couple of years ago. It was important not to just go by what your peer is reporting to their own newsroom, to their own, TV channel audiences or their digital platform. Trust your own set of resources, your own network of credible sources, and build that over a period of time. Network with people, network with spokespeople, network with, if you're reporting on science or public health, as I did for many years as a public health journalist, I made sure that I knew the dean, the specialized doctors, the important, government officials in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, because that's where the credible bit of information came from. So build that network of sources, of points of contact, whom you can cross-check and corroborate your information, and only then put that out or share that with your own colleagues back in the newsroom, because it's a chain reaction. And we need to make sure that the first bit of information is then checked and verified back in the newsroom by your colleagues, by a set of people trained to support you. And make sure that you're not only relying on a Twitter feed or the feed or updates from your peers on the field. I also wanted to share another resource. There's a question from Abhirami who says that she's pursuing fisheries and science. Sorry, Brinda, if I'm just taking the question away from you. But she's asking, is it necessary to join a journalism college to learn about journalism? I don't think so. I joined a journalism college. Yes, I joined the Xavier's Institute of Communications. I also did my mass media in Mumbai at KC College. It was a very, very new batch. Literally, we were like guinea pigs of journalism students and media studies. But it's not important or not necessary, or it's not a pre-qualification or criteria to be part of any college. Yes, there are many, many mass media and journalism institutes now, very renowned, very credible ones. You can, of course, join it to learn the craft, to learn certain skills of video editing, how do you verify sources, or fact checking, but it's not a prerequisite. You can learn on the job. Many of us had to unlearn many theoretical things that we learned in journalism school or institute, to actually unlearn some of those methods or formulae, and when we got into the field. But there was a great exposure to well-known journalistic writers like Noam Chomsky. Look up the International Center for Journalists. They have a lot of very good trainings and courses in podcasting. You can get courses in being a video journalist alone and telling stories through documentary or long form journalism. So there is so much available now. AFH is a great platform where you can reach out to any of us, Rica, myself, any other of the mentors, to understand documentary journalism. You can try to understand magazine or feature journalism. There's lifestyle journalism. There's you can be a part of Architectural Digest if you're interested, or like the student mentioned, fisheries and science. You can talk about science, science and public health communications, which I'm doing. And I'm happy to let Rica pitch in, and then we can watch a very short video clip if we have time for it.
You're on mute, Rica ma'am.
The only thing I have to add here is there are a lot of these fellowships that are available for young journalists across the globe now internationally. Thomson Foundation has very nice fellowships for young journalists. So if one is interested, I think it's worth giving it a shot. It's worth giving a life in journalism a shot. I think I can only think it to be a blessing that anyone can have. And also, if someone is a sports journalist, then the World Sports Journalism Body, that is AIPS, also has a fellowship. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, has a fellowship. You can do your masters there. Then FIFA, or the World Football body, they have a college in Lausanne. Both IOC and FIFA have their colleges in Lausanne, and you can do a FIFA Masters program or an IOC Masters program. They have fellowships there. This is sports journalism specific and sports marketing specific. A lot of marketing professionals from the sports from the sports field, they want to do these courses as well. So there are many if you want to really give yourself a chance.
Before we move on to play a video that Prachi ma'am mentioned we'll be playing, Richa Ved from the audience wanted to ask a question and wanted to switch on video and audio for that. So, Richa, you can do that now.
Hi, you guys kind of answered my question. So I'm a business student and I just study business and I have no educational background in journalism, but I'm looking to transition towards business journalism. So it was more about what is the best way or the tips that you would give a student who is currently seeking internships and jobs in journalism to go towards that career path? That's about it.
You want to take that, Rica?
See, I would imagine you can take up a few internships right now. And typically, if you get internships in companies like CNBC, they will give you an idea of how business journalism is done. But having said that, journalism is journalism. The basic craft of every journalism is quite similar. Business journalism is a field of journalism where you grow, learn about business, about various stories that are appearing in the world of business. And also, you study around your beat and you grow your beat, you make the connections in the world of business. But the basic craft of journalism still remains the same. You can pick up one basic internship somewhere and understand how it works in the newsroom. I don't know what about journalism interests you, whether it's about writing, commentating, it's about researching, because these are also different areas that then one finds out. One can enter into journalism and it's totally possible and then say that I'm just interested in research. And then that person goes on to become a researcher in the newsroom. Or someone wants to be, a guest coordinator, wants to just network. You can just be a networker inside the newsroom, and you are the person that everyone would go to. Then, to dial Mukesh Ambani, you are probably the one. So that's how it happens. So there are various roles in the newsroom, and even the business newsrooms. You need to know what you would really like to perform.
And I just want to add, keep an open mind. Being in the newsroom, it's very rewarding. It's a great sense of pride. There's a bit of glamour to it, but also the larger picture is that, you learn how to hone your skill of being a storyteller, a researcher. You get to learn about so many topics, subjects, themes. You can unpack it. Every day is a new day. So that's something that keeps you moment. So keep an open mind when you go into a CNBC newsroom or a moneycontrol.com or any financial pink paper newsroom. You can, as an intern, you can dabble in various roles, various desks, various capacities. Please take the initiative to talk to people who are around, your colleagues or other journalists around you, and ask questions. Be curious. As a journalist, an important skill or quality or trait, I would say, is being curious. And that will really take you places, that will answer so many of your questions. So never feel shy, ask questions, really absorb everything around you, and keep an open mind, be flexible, get to learn about everything from, being in a live newsroom. What happens when you are pushing out the live ticker news band? You're on the desk. What happens when you're researching the Sensex or Nifty going up or down. Learn about that. Whether you want to go interview, corporate honchos, learn the art of interviewing. So you can unpack and learn and get a sense of all of these roles in a newsroom when you're interning. So internships, as Rica said, are a valuable step ladder, a glimpse into the world of what journalism is all about, and you can make sense of various roles and then pick one, choose one, and still continue to reinvent.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I have seen, if you're on LinkedIn, there are times when CNBC puts out little advertisements for internships. Do go and check them out. Do go and check out a newsroom if you're interested in journalism.
So I have interned with Bloomberg for a week. It was more of an online internship, so I didn't really get that experience in person of being in a newsroom thing. So I have the knowledge, just not the experience, and it's really hard to transition and generally just get internships in the UK, which is the country I'm looking at right now. But,
are you in the UK right now?
I'm currently in Mumbai, but I study at the University of Warwick. So my target companies, the media companies, are mostly based in the UK.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might be a little difficult, but if you can just manage the time difference, then see if there is an Indian company which is willing to give you an internship, a late evening internship, and you can work for 3-4 hours there. That could also be, I think a lot of them are just because we are doing a lot of internships, handing out internships to people who are working online. And I don't think many organizations are still allowing interns to come into the newsroom because of COVID protocols. And since a lot of the work is being done online, you can figure out if there is any Indian organization who can give you an internship role between, say, 8 o'clock in the evening till 12 o'clock at night, which would then help you to manage the time. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Just do half a shift and see 8 to 12 India time if you can do. But ideally, because the business hours are 8 to 4, a lot happens between 8 and 4. However, having said that, the evening primetime news is still 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. So just figure that if you can.
Also, I would say the BBC has a job board and they do announce internships on their LinkedIn. If you're not able to physically be there, of course, in the next couple of months, you can always try to ask them if you can job shadow a journalist here in India, and whether your university will count that towards, understanding what journalists do, because really it's not different. Culturally, yes, but the process of news gathering is, the craft is the same, as Rica pointed out. And once you know the basics of, understanding how it works, London Stock Exchange works very similar to Bombay Stock Exchange or the National Stock Exchange. But there are nuances and cultural differences, I'm sure, and the economy is different. But if you can get a sense of on-ground job shadowing a journalist here in India while you're here physically, nothing like it. Otherwise, yes, there are some limitations to online internships, due to COVID protocols.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
So before we conclude this session, which has kind of gone a little over time, because there's just so much to discuss, it's so diverse, I'd like to play this video that Prachi ma'am spoke about. It's quite a short one. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Research shows that 2 hours after you quit smoking, your body is free of nicotine. In 6 hours, your blood pressure goes down. In a few days, your sense of smell and taste return. In about 12 months, your risk of heart attack and lung cancer is halved. But right now, you're a heart attack waiting to happen. Every BD cigarette is doing you damage. Quit today.
So I'll just tell you, not a great positive, happy note to end on. But before we wrap up, just to give you a quick idea, this is a announcement. This was made into short, bite-sized digital, public service message for tobacco control to talk to young people and a particular target audience to spread a message of quitting any kind of tobacco use, because there are health harms associated to it. It not just impacts you as a user, but also those around you. And this is made in collaboration with the health ministry by Vital Strategies, where I work. It's a form of storytelling where we did all of the scripting and the filmmaking of this digital PSA in-house. Of course, the voiceover is done, with a particular tonality kept in mind, because this particular PSA or digital film is shown in cinema theaters, in large public gatherings, also on OTT platforms, and during television commercial program, when there are commercial breaks in television programs. So there is another form of storytelling that you can apply your journalistic skills to, and that also is related to social impact communications or public health and science journalism, which is another form or format of storytelling which one can pursue. And there are various courses, there are various educational formats that you can pursue online through learning modules, and use your journalistic skills to take forward storytelling with a purpose.
Thank you so much, Prachi ma'am. Thank you so much, Rica ma'am. Definitely the people staying back, they really want to know more, what they can do and how they can learn, and very, very excited to learn. For all of you, you can always reach out to Aspire for Her and get mentored by this amazing, amazing women that we have over here, and know more and get your queries and questions all out. And on a special note, an exciting note, we have an internship opportunity for students, especially who are looking for internships in NDTV, and it will be a 6-week internship. I will be putting down the email ID on which you can, I can see exciting responses. Can you please leave the email ID? Yes, I will. And you can send it over to Richa ma'am, whose email ID will be put down, and we can take it forward from there, and you can have an exciting internship opportunity as Rica ma'am as your mentor and going forward.
Also, we will need an NOC from the college, Maria.
Yes. You heard Rica ma'am that you have to have an NOC, so all those will be told to you, and what is needed and what is required. On that note, I'm handing over to Ruchita ma'am for the closing note.
Wow, this is always as fantastic. But before I start speaking, I'm going to launch the polls because my colleague has left and I forget these polls. So this is very important for feedback. And while everybody's putting in their questions, this really helps us. Not that I want to sound very primitive and very ancient, but as we grew up, I remember a newsroom with news only at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock at night, and at 10 o'clock. I don't know, Rica, if you remember. And the two people I remember offhand is Salma Sultan, and the other person is Komal GB Singh. And I'm sure with those names, I don't think I would have been interested in journalism. But today, the way journalism has come up and these careers, they're absolutely different. And these tracks, I think you have to stay updated. Things have changed, and our own mentors here have to actually keep track of the latest things. For example, I didn't know that today journalism can be done even over your iPhone. And things are changing. Every track is a new career track. While journalism has been since old days, it has still had so many changes. And I can just tell you one thing. After the 9 o'clock and the 10 o'clock news, the only piece of news that would come was the print, which was the newspaper in the morning. And as kids, our entire family would just get up and pick up the first newspaper along with tea, and that is when news was coming. None of us knew that later in the future, in a couple of years, we would have continuous news channels moving about with news every hour, every minute. And that is how things change. And with Rica and Prachi, I'm sure everybody's got so much to learn, because every time I sit in, I learn so much. And it sounds very exciting, and I'm sure. And Rica has always been more than I think one of our favorite mentors, always giving opportunities for internships. And I know it really happens, because when I get these emails from a lot of students or from people who want to try, and I mail them to her, they definitely reach out to the students. In fact, I get mails from Rica saying that the student is not traceable. It's the other way. So if you have applied for it, make sure that you're waiting to hear back, because it does happen with Rica over here. So don't miss on these opportunities. And with whatever you've learned today, always feel free to come back, because each day is changing in every career. Every track keeps changing, and best to hear from mentors who've had this journey, especially the ones who are sitting.
Ruchita, can I just give one clarification about the internship?
Yes, please.
This internship will have to be online, because we still can't get you into the newsroom due to COVID protocols. So I really insist that you have an interest in researching and writing, because that's mostly I'm going to emphasize on with you working remotely. Had you been working with me in the newsroom, then I could have shown you a lot more technical stuff. But I am really limited in terms of the functions that I can show an individual. It'll have to be more of writing and researching.
So I think with that, we will end today's session. We've had a fantastic 6 session long on film and media. I'm sure everybody's felt very interested. And it's not the end of it, but we'll come back with newer sessions, and we hope to give everybody, okay, is it a 6-week internship? Yes, Pooja, it is a 6-week internship. So for any more details, please write into my email ID, ruchita@aspireforher.org. And let's get this new phase started. In the new year, we'll be back with a lot more sessions. But till then, we have our She Dares going on with Amazon Web Services. You can check out our website to know more about it and get started there. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. Thank you, Rica. Thank you, Prachi.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you, AFH. You're amazing. Thank you, Ruchita. And thank you, Madhura ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone, for your questions. Thank you, Maria, Isha, Brinda.
Thank you, Prachi ma'am. Thank you, Rica ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone.